Hello everyone, my name's Alicia Burris. Thanks for coming. I'm sure everyone has seen the live-action Little Mermaid teaser trailer featuring Halle Bailey as Ariel. There's been a lot of controversy over it, mostly because Bailey doesn't at all resemble the original Ariel from the 1989 animated movie. It seems strange that Disney took the effort to make Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin look much like their original counterparts, but didn't do it for the Little Mermaid. However, something kept bothering me. The live-action Cinderella, other than her hair color, also doesn't look much like the animated Cinderella, yet this never bothered me at all. Why is that? This didn't make sense to me until I watched a video by The Trove about Disney's live-action reboots. I've linked his video in the description so you can see it for yourself. His video isn't about The Little Mermaid, since it was posted before even the Pinocchio trailer was released, but it really helped me understand the problem. The issue is the difference between two things: retelling and remake. Retelling means you take the basic story structure, the skeleton if you will, and flesh it out with your own unique details and twists. Retellings typically keep only the most essential points of the story, with many of the details being changed. Some characters may be added or left out, others may be expanded on more than the original story or have different motivations. The setting may be similar or completely different, and the same goes for the costuming, depending on where the setting is. The dialogue is also original, though it may be thematically similar. Sometimes even the title is changed. Retellings vary on how much they rely on the original source material. It can't be too different, else it wouldn't be a retelling, but an original story, but it shouldn't be exactly the same. For instance, in Maleficent, Maleficent's design is still pretty much the same, and she still curses Aurora into a sleep that can only be broken by a kiss of true love. However, pretty much everything else is different, including Maleficent having a backstory, how Aurora wakes, and the final climax. Another example is Cinderella, where most of the plot points and characters are pretty much the same, but the designs are rather different, the Duke's character is extremely different, and the animals don't talk. Disney's retellings may have some Easter egg nods to the original, but they're not in your face. Remake, on the other hand, means taking the original story and telling it in almost exactly the same way. The characters' appearances are made to look very similar, the motivations are mostly the same, at least for the main characters, and most of all, the dialogue is extremely similar, if not completely identical. This last point is especially significant with Disney's remakes, since the movies they've remade, i.e. Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, and Aladdin, were all originally musicals. They've added some new songs, or perhaps some new twists to old songs, but it's pretty much the same. The songs are the most telling sign of the difference. Disney's live-action retellings are not musicals, but the remakes are. You could almost say that retellings and remakes are the reverse of one another. Retellings rely largely on originality, with some nostalgia and familiarity mixed in, while remakes rely heavily on nostalgia with a few original tweaks here and there. So the question arises, which is The Little Mermaid? Retelling or remake? When I first heard some years ago that Bailey was starring in the live-action Little Mermaid, and the story was taking place in the Caribbean, I didn't think much of it. I just assumed that Disney was making a retelling, and whether it was good or bad depended on the movie itself. So having a black actress for Ariel seemed fine. But then I saw the teaser, and then it became a problem. Why? The teaser shows multiple scenes that are taken directly from the 1989 film. The sunken ship, Ariel in the grotto, the ship passing over the grotto hole, and most of all, Ariel singing Part of Your World. All these things scream remake. Then we see her face, and all of a sudden there's a contradiction. Remakes rely heavily on nostalgia, but if a character, especially the main character, looks completely different, the nostalgia factor simply goes right out the window, and it creates a kind of mental dissonance for anyone who's watching the teaser and expecting someone like the original Ariel after having so many nostalgic cues. It kind of destroys the suspension of disbelief. It seems like Disney is trying to eat their cake and have it too. Based on the casting and Disney's comments about Ariel's motivation being somewhat different, plus the change in setting, I would be expecting a retelling. But the clips from the teaser all would suggest a remake, and you can't have it both ways. I can't simultaneously think of this as a new version of Ariel and the exact same Ariel from the animated movie. She's either one or the other, not both. And here's the thing. Defenders of the movie are seeing it as a retelling, while critics are seeing it as a remake. As to why the teaser has been getting the race-centered backlash that it's gotten, this is partly due to the dissonance from the trailer that I've already mentioned, and partly due to bad timing. This teaser came out in the wake of the backlash against the Rings of Power by Amazon, where the cast and showrunners kept making the show diverse and making it reflect the modern world, which is pretty much exactly the opposite of Tolkien's intentions, and basically said anyone who didn't accept it was racist. So when people were upset over this, saw a black one portraying Ariel, they naturally assumed that it was also in the name of diversity, just like Rings of Power. And regardless of the real reason Bailey was hired, Disney responded the same way Amazon did. So here we are. I do need to point out one thing though that keeps coming up. I've seen multiple people criticize the casting because The Little Mermaid is originally a Danish fairy tale. People probably latched onto this argument because of Rings of Power, but I have to say this argument really doesn't work here. Tolkien had a specific objective of replacing lost Anglo-Saxon myth, and his books have 1,000 times more world building than any fairy tale. But as an argument against The Little Mermaid, it just isn't relevant. If the film is a retelling, then the setting and characters can look anyway. If it's a remake, then it's a remake of the 1989 film, so only looking like the film matters, not the original fairy tale. Basically, if the live-action Little Mermaid were a retelling, then it could work. But if it's a remake, it's already failed, and the teaser is sending mixed signals. I'm not sure if Disney is doing this because they just can't tell the difference, or if they planned all this out for the sake of publicity. At this point, either theory is feasible. Granted, teasers often have things that don't show up in the final film, but given the amount of stuff from the original that's showing up, I'm not holding my breath, no pun intended. So what are your thoughts on The Little Mermaid? Let me know in the comments, and I hope this video was helpful. Also, just so you know, this is the first video like this that I have ever made, so please grant me some mercy. Thanks, God bless, and have a wonderful day.